Welcome to the Education Over Debt podcast. I'm Sheena Hogue, and I'm so glad you joined. This is a place where I give practical financial tips that anyone can understand and you can begin to implement now. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and turn your notifications on so that you are aware of any new content that we drop. Listen to us anywhere you listen to your podcast, and on Spotify, you can become a monthly subscriber for as little as 99 cents per month. Today, we're going to show you a recap of our keynote speaker at the Education Over Debt Foundation's scholarship reception. The Education Over Debt Foundation is a 501c3 organization that provides scholarships to students obtaining their bachelor's degree. The foundation's focus is to provide scholarships to African American students attending a four-year college or university, historically Black college or university, and undocumented students of color on the path to citizenship attending a four-year university. What makes the foundation unique is that while it seeks to provide scholarships to students, it also educates students on money management, wealth accumulation techniques, and mentors students during their college journey. To me, college is important not only because it gives you options in your career, but it allows you to meet and build relationships with people that you wouldn't have met at your neighborhood or city schools. In this episode, you will see the scholarship reception where we awarded 3 students in the amounts of $500 as they began their college career in fall 2022. The students are attending North Carolina State University, North Carolina A&T University, and St. Louis University on the Madrid campus. Our keynote speaker is Charlotte's City Council member representing District 3, Victoria Watlington. Let's watch.
Well, I'm Victoria, and it's a pleasure to be here today. First of all, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And I just want to acknowledge the work that you all are doing here, counselors and principals. Sheena, education, as we all know, is incredible. Right? We understand that we deal with not only a society that's been built on racism, but it's built on classism. And we understand that the crux of racism is really economic, right? Because for me, you can feel however you want to feel about it, but don't mess with money, right? And so when we talk about how do we continue to close the gap and close the economic mobility gap in our society, we got to be talking about how we use drivers that increase our opportunities to grow through. So we know that one of them are clearly education, probably the most important, that and mentoring, particularly for our Black males. And so I'd like to share just a little bit about my journey today, and if it's okay with you, I'd love to open it up for any questions from our students who college freshmen. So, as was mentioned, I went to the University of Florida. I'm an Army grad, so both my parents are U.S. Army retired, and I graduated high school in Fort Leavenworth, Missouri. Originally from North Carolina, so as you can imagine, no shade to Missouri at all. St. Louis is a wonderful place, no shade at all. But it was a place that I said, okay, well, it's different, right? And so I knew that I wanted to graduate and go out of state for school. Well, at the time, and one of the first things that I'll say, that I'll share with you today as part of my journey is that we understand that we make plans and God has his will, right? But it always works out when you do it. So for me, I don't know why, but I was always a fan of Duke. My daddy is a diehard North Carolina UNC fan, and every year I would get the handshake. But I knew that I loved Duke athletics and I loved what they were about in terms of academics. And so, 6th grade on, I always was planning to go to Duke. When I went and scheduled all of my classes, it was with that in mind. So, senior year comes, and I applied, and I get back my packet, and I'm excited. I'm ready to go. I'm like, Daddy, Mama, look, I got in. They're like, Daddy, you don't know how you're going to pay for it. So that was rude awakening number 1, right? But we went down and visited, and I went ahead and filled out all my paperwork, was getting ready to go. In April of my senior year, I got a letter from a school like that. It was the University of Florida. And they said, we offer scholarships, full scholarships, to minority achievement scholars through the National Merit Association. And at that point, I had a decision to make. And as much as it broke my heart, it was very clear that if you want to start out in this world in a way that's going to put you ahead, above and beyond, we know the conversations that are happening nationally as it relates to student debt. you better go where the money is. And I'm so happy looking back that I did. It took me a year or so to get acclimated so, decided it was the right thing for me, but it absolutely was. It gave me an opportunity to come out of school without a burden on my back in terms of finances. But while I was at the University of Florida, I senior year, I had in mind that I wanted to be an English teacher and history teacher, right? And then I took a physics class my senior year, and our teacher was a West Point engineer, and he introduced to us this whole other side of things, right? And so I sat down as I was thinking about what I wanted to do, and I realized, I'm really good at math, I'm okay at science, I'm really good at a lot of other things, but when it came to what I could contribute to the world and what I felt like I was going to be compensated for, it was clear that engineering was on the rise, right? When you talk about engineering, when you talk about STEM fields, nursing, all of these areas where the industry is growing. Even here in Charlotte, we are recruiting heavily logistics and advanced manufacturing professionals, finance professionals, fintech specifically. There are so many opportunities when you are coming out of school with majors that are highly sought after. And so I decided that I wanted to switch from this idea of teaching to engineering. So I chose mechanical and aerospace engineering because there was a dual degree program. So I go to freshman year, I'm doing well, I'm getting my A's, I might get one B here and there, and then I get my major courses. And in high school, I'm sure many of you all know that it's a different animal in college, right? You go from kind of teacher-led learning to student-led learning. And so it's something where I could do my homework while the teacher was doing the lesson in high school and be fine. Not so in college, okay? Particularly in Chemistry 101. I remember it like it was yesterday. There were 400 people in our class. And our professor told us at the very beginning, if you've never had a chemistry course, you probably need to get out of this class. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be fine, it's gonna be fine. About 3 weeks in, I realized he was serious. And I had to go back and drop and move into intro to chemistry so that I could catch up. But my physics class was another what they call a weed out course. Yes, exactly. And so you're thinking, all right, it'll be easy coming here, study a little bit, get an A, get a B. No. I found out very quickly that C's get degrees. I'm with you. And was grateful to get out. However, I will say, looking back, and I would encourage you all, make sure that you leverage the networks that are available in school. Beyond your professors, beyond your TAs, don't sleep on the engineer. I know that we got a mechanical engineer in the audience coming up. Raise your hand if you're a mechanical engineer. Cool. Okay. And I'd like to know what is everybody's major? Do we know?
International business.
International business? Awesome. So don't sleep on the business fraternity either, because they have students that know what the previous tests have been. They got to test the answers. They do study groups, get involved in extracurricular activities, because those are the people who are going to be able to walk alongside you and be able to call on when it's time to study. Don't do it in a vacuum. That is something that took me far too long to learn. The other thing that I would encourage you is to begin as much as you can with the end in mind. Absolutely, you want to enjoy your college experience. As a part of enjoying that experience, you got to get involved with extracurricular activities, get involved with other organizations, because it gives you an opportunity to learn a little bit more practically about what your major could actually look like. There are so many internship opportunities and so many, I'll say, special programs, if you will, whether it's in the summer or as a co-op that you will get involved in to really see, I thought I liked this. I actually don't like this way, or I really like this particular specific area or industry that I want to get involved in. For me, coming out of my freshman year, I really hadn't thought much about what to do after college. I knew that I had 4 years, and the money was going to run out, I had to get out, right? And so I went home for the summer, worked at a summer camp, and it was fun, but the next year, going into the fall, we had what we called the Career Showcase. And so companies were coming from all over the country to recruit students. Well, I went, I sauntered around. I said, okay, this may be something I'll do later on. I'm not really thinking about it. Well, at some point later on in the year, I decided I really wanted to work for a particular company, Procter & Gamble. And I went to their spring info sessions. And what I found out was that Procter & Gamble did not take interns as their first internship unless they came through something called the interns program. And so I found myself March of sophomore year with a problem. So I go to the Career Resource Center at the Student Union. It was right beside the food court. That's why I knew where it was. I've been there in my life. So I go in, I sit down with the lady and explain to her that I need some help. I'd like an internship. And she looked at me like, David, I'm so sorry. You are far too late. And so she gave me a couple pointers for next year, and I left feeling defeated, obviously. But then she calls me back. She says, "You won't believe what happened." This is what I'm talking about, where you make your plan and then God comes through and switches it up, and it always works out for you good. And she said, "I just got a fax from a UF alumna in Kansas City, Missouri." My parents were still in Fort Leonard Wood at the time. Kansas City, Missouri. They are looking for a retail product development engineer in Hallmark cards. I applied for the role. About a week later, I was on my way out to the internship. And I was able to then take that internship and come back and be prepared to apply for an internship with the company I'm going to work for. And I was able to start working with them. But I share that story with you because God gave me grace. And so I'm going to give you some wisdom. Start with the end in mind. If you already know a little bit about what it is you want to do, or you don't know yet, but you know who and what organizations you can go to on campus to learn a little bit more about it, take advantage of it early, because you've got time to change your mind if you want to. You've got time to learn a little bit more about it. But definitely enjoy your experience and make sure that as you're thinking about what comes next, you're giving yourself room for options, because that's what counts. Like I said, I wanted to hear a little bit from the students, if that's all right. So if that is my general story, I can appreciate my experience and would love to share anything with you all. Do you have any questions or anything?
How did you get into the political arena from the engineering?
That's a fantastic question too. Okay, so this is how it happened. This is another one of those, you don't know necessarily all the details. I always had a passion to be involved in lead. So in high school, I was, the student government president, different things like that. But when I went to college, honestly, I was intimidated. Like I said, I came from out of state. I was in a school with about 49,000 students. And people knew their folks. I'm from Orlando, I'm from Miami, and we had student government, and we had like hall representatives, and you had a particular freshman centers, these kinds of things. So I did put in for this particular freshman representative role. And I went in, I interviewed, thought I had done pretty well, and found out I didn't get it. And I talked to one of the young ladies who was in the interview. She was a ranking member of our student senate, and she told me, she said, honestly, had you been in the other room, you would have got in. But we only had so many slots because we're trying to make sure that we keep a diverse representation. Translation, there was another Black person ahead of me in this interview, right? So after that, I said, it's a little too political for me, right? And so I didn't think anything else about it, got involved with some other things in the engineering college and whatnot. So fast forward, I come out of school, I start working for Procter & Gamble. The reason that I wanted to go to Procter is because they were a promote from within company. And so they were very, very big on investing in the people. It wasn't we just hire you for this role and you can sit there till you die. And so coming in, the first thing they did, only hired engineers in product supply. And they turned them quickly into managers. So I was able to come in on the technical engineering side, but then move into management. And it was very focused on like systems engineering, Lean Six Sigma, that kind of thing. And so it gave me an opportunity to start seeing systems and really, really hone my problem solving skills. And so I was out in Still Creek. And I don't know how many of you all are local to Charlotte, but Still Creek is a very, very fast growing area. And I was driving down to Lancaster, South Carolina every day. So it was about 45 to an hour drive. Well, if any of y'all are familiar with Charlotte, you know that traffic has gotten out of control, right? And so it was taking me an hour every day to get home. And I was like, okay, I'm a young engineer here in Charlotte. I'm already working out in the boonies. I don't want to have to drive another 30 minutes when I get home. And so that's another piece just for after college. Think about when you're choosing where you want to live, what you want to do. Think about your whole life and what you want that to look like. But that's down the road. So anyway, I moved to West Boulevard where I live now, and it's a completely different dynamic. So Still Creek is very much like people that have moved in and built a lot of houses transient. You can and I'll confess, I was doing this, wave to your neighbors, get your garage door openers, go on in. Not so in West Boulevard. When I first moved there, about 2 weeks in, I got a flyer in the mail, and it said, hey, come out and meet your neighbors. We're trying to restart our neighborhood association. And so I went, and I was introduced to some of my neighbors that had lived in the community and were born in their homes 50, 60 years. And as an Army brat, that was something that I didn't often get to see. And so I immediately fell in love with my neighborhood. But what I learned quickly was that problems that my neighbors were facing were not things that were completely unsolvable, right? And it was like, well, if we can do it on that side of town, we can do it on this side of town. So I started to get more and more involved. I joined the board, and I went to the City of Charlotte's Community Planning Academy. It's actually coming back. So if you're in Charlotte, be on the lookout, applications around now. But it was put on by the zoning department, and they went through redlining, they went through urban renewal, they went through housing discrimination, and how our city got to be the way it is right now, which is very, very segregated. If you look at the way the city is laid out, almost every socioeconomic factor is separated by these particular lines. And so anyway, that was for me where as a mechanical and also at the time systems engineer, the light bulb came on and said, well, if we designed our way in, we got to design our way out. So that's how I got started on the community side, and then just so happened a few years later, my predecessor actually vacated the seat to run for a different office. And that was when my neighbor said, hey, you've been doing a lot of work on this side, we want you to go represent it and take it to the dais. And so that's how I got there, and I'm able to use my engineering approach to public policy. So. All right. So I don't know what I'm looking at time. Okay, does anybody else have any other questions?
As you when you studied mechanical engineering, did you learn about any other fields of engineering, or you just learned about mechanical?
So if you look at the programs, you'll find that we call mechanical engineering kind of the foundation of all the other disciplines. So if you get a mechanical engineering degree, you're going to get a little bit of electrical, you're going to get a little bit of structural, a little bit of civil. And what I found was that I really liked the processing side, but being able to put my hands on the piece. But you will get to see that some schools offer an intro to engineering course, and particularly for folks who know they want to do engineering, but don't have it declared a particular discipline. So you'll have an opportunity to get exposed to some of the other areas. I will say I didn't mention, I ended up dropping my aerospace engineering curriculum. I said, I don't want to work for NASA. I don't want to work for Boeing, and this is giving me too much stress. So I ended up dropping that side of it, but you will get an opportunity to see some of the others. And it doesn't just have to be in class either. You can go with like the Society of Automotive Engineers, or you can go with IEEE for the electricals and kind of get a feel for the type of work they do. But I'll say this, I'll say this. Engineering and industry is so cross-functional. So just because you got a mechanical degree don't mean that tomorrow you're not going to work on a controls project. So you'll get to put your hand in a lot of things. No problem.
I would say so are you focused just on the political landscape now, or are you still practicing engineering, or are they intertwined?
Sure. So I'm actually focused on a lot of things right now. So I still work in industry as an operations manager. I still city council, but I've also opened my own MVP firm, and I'll tell you mechanical, electrical, and plumbing design firm, and I've been doing projects under that for the last year, and that's my exit strategy, right? We'll get into exit strategy later. It's interesting how it came full circle because we all know we're talking about economic mobility, right? For a lot of people, particularly folks who have justice involved, entrepreneurship is the pathway to increased income. And we also know now that, and we just did our disparity study here in Charlotte, we know that there is still a void for minority and women business owners in a lot of areas, engineering being one. So for example, our program, we'd like to target about 30% minority involvement in particular industries. I am the only Black female engineer, business owner in the region. I get calls from people in Virginia wanting to figure out what to do because the targets are set high, but the actual ability to fill that with minority participation is low. So I say all that to say it came full circle because as I was serving, starting to learn more and more about how do we liberate our people really and truly, and what tools can we use from a policy standpoint to do so. Minority participation goals in construction, design, other areas are able to do so. So right now I'm kind of
taught difference.
Exactly, trying to transition over, but I definitely want to stay in the engineering space.